Welcome to the Traveling Cup, Ep.1. All right, well, welcome to the Traveling Cup, Ep.1. This podcast is for coffee lovers like me who like to meet interesting people doing interesting things to change the world, one step at a time. I'm obsessed with morning rituals and like to think that the way I start my day models the decisions I make the rest of the day. If I start right, I end right. Throughout the next several months, I've lined up interviews with real movers and shakers doing some amazing things to be productive and build social changing businesses. So pour your favorite morning brew and join in. This episode is brought to you by Climbing Fish, a group of connectors based in New York City that are dedicated to reconnecting people with conversations that matter, and in doing so, helping you find your true genius. Find out more information at climbingfish.com. Today I'm drinking a cup of Cafe Altura's Fair Trade Low Acid Organic Dark Sumatra blend in a French press. That's a mouthful, and God, I feel like a snob. What are you drinking? Let me know by writing in at www.thetravelingcup.com. So today on the call, we're going to be talking to Sarah Jacob, who I met recently at a TEDx event in the Hudson Valley, the city of Beacon, New York, just about an hour north of New York City. I'm really excited to have her on the podcast because she represents something I think we all wish for. Her story reminds me of Dr. Seuss in the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. Dr. Seuss said that you should go for your dreams. Be not afraid to be different, even though at times you'd be all alone. Sarah took that advice and danced with it, literally. So take a sip and let's get this started. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Traveling Cup, the podcast where we talk to really cool people doing really cool things to start your day off right. So today on the call, I have Sarah Jacob. She is a TEDx speaker who talks about tango and how dance can make you realize the present in life. So I'll go ahead and introduce her to our listeners and let her tell you a little bit about who she is and what she's currently doing, and then we'll delve into a pretty deep conversation about tango. Welcome to the podcast, Sarah.
Hi, thank you. Well, how to encapsulate who I am? I am limitless. But at the moment, I am living in the Hudson Valley of New York. I do business development consulting, finance and sales and marketing consulting. Um, and I also am developing this beautiful offering around tango and connection. So I've been a tango dancer for 5 or 6 years, and that has sparked a very untraditional journey in my life that involves a complete departure from my sort of traditional career track. And I learned a lot about life as I traveled the world dancing tango, and so now I am actually doing presentations and workshops that use tango as a metaphor and a way of talking about connection, because really connection is why we're here. As social animals, humans are wired for connection, and so we seek connection to one other person, to a community, and even to ourselves. And usually, feelings of dissatisfaction in life can be traced down to some kind of sense of disconnection.
That's I don't interrupt you, but that's a really
Yeah.
good point, Sarah. And that's one of the things I think when you and I first met, we started talking about, especially about how our culture today allows for people to be so hyper connected. But the irony is that even though we are so connected, right? I think this is you who said it, that we're so connected yet we're so far away and we're so distant from the natural, present, from being able to focus on the right now, right?
Yeah, it's to me it's a question of quality. It's the quality of our connections that has gone down, even though the quantity has gone up. So even though the ability to connect with others is more accessible than ever, um, but I don't think people are necessarily feeling a deeper sense of connectedness in like a satisfying way that has like a lot of the sort of emotional needs being exchanged. So yeah, I think people are really craving connection, maybe more than ever, because we kind of have the illusion of it. It's like a tease, you know?
Right, right. So let me just get this straight and make sure that the listeners are clear and I'm clear because this is definitely a unique story. I've never heard something like this before. So you were working in, what I like to call corporate America, correct?
Yep.
And you said, "Whoa, wait a minute, this isn't right." And so how did you get to Tango? Were you doing Tango before on the
So
side, and then you just kind of packed the suitcase and went, or how'd that work?
yeah, I was living a secret double life for about a year
Okay.
while I was still working in an investment firm in Boston, and I had been, working in finance and investments for about 8 years. I started dancing tango initially as a good way to replace my former boyfriend. So, you have a new space in your life and you start to try something new. And as I started to learn and dance tango, I just found that I was coming alive in this way, that I was seeing all these qualities in myself. Like I was so creative and I was so playful and I was so present.
Hmm.
And those are qualities that I hadn't really experienced of myself since maybe I was little.
So I'm just curious. So then, are you saying that? And this is something I've heard from other people as well. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but is that something that you felt the corporate America lifestyle was perhaps maybe taking away from you, or just the way what's a normal type of lifestyle was kind of taking away from you in the first place?
Well, I think it wasn't valued. I think
Hmm.
in my corporate life, it was valued to be logical and rational and approach things from like a linear perspective uh, and be honestly to be obedient and to follow the rules and to you know kind of emulate the other people in the environment and be like sort of, to use the cliche, like to be in the box.
Hmm.
That was what was valued. So being creative and playful wasn't really valued, and or being, using your intuition or thinking of things in sort of a holistic or circular kind of organic way wasn't valued. And so um, when so those things that weren't valued were just things that I was not called to express, and therefore I didn't experience that of myself, and I didn't really know enough in life yet at that point to try to cultivate it outside of work. Well, actually, until I started dancing tango, and then I was like, wow, there's this whole, and you could almost say that it's a right brain left brain thing. Like in the corporate life, my left brain qualities were valued, and in tango there was this right brain that sort of lit up, and all of a sudden I was like, never thought of myself as a creative person before, but I was, the way I was moving and kind of create, because tango is this conversation. It's not about learning steps and then piecing them together. It's about learning elements like a language, where you learn the basic elements and then how they make sense together, but you can put them together in an infinite number of ways. So there is an immense palette for creativity that I opened up to. And when I experienced that part of myself, I was like, wow, I love this. I want to be this part of myself all the time. I'd go out dancing at night and be like this, this sort of this other person who I really, I liked being that person, and other
Hmm.
people responded to that person in like magical ways. And then I'd go to work the next day and be like, wow, I feel like a zombie around here. And everybody here is sort of like, just feels kind of cookie cutter. Like we're all saying the same things to each other every day while we, load up on 24 ounces of coffee. And I was just like, God, this is so devoid of imagination. And I think there's something to be said for, just to come alive and be our whole selves. So after about a year of dancing tango, there was also a year where a lot of different things shifted um, to kind of create this sort
Hmm.
of open mind that I was having. And so I decided, you know what? Was just about to turn 30, and I said, I don't have any life infrastructure holding me back. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have kids. I have a lease and I can break the lease and I can go. I can go anywhere. And so I left. I left my job. I left my career. I left Boston and I just started traveling and I just started going wherever I could dance tango. I went to festivals. I went to the good tango cities. And I traveled. I was a tango gypsy, I guess, for like a year and a half. Um, and so, yeah, I guess you could say it's untraditional what I did. But in a way, it was like I almost didn't even like. I didn't even debate whether it was the right thing to do or not. It was like I couldn't not do it.
Hmm.
I had the opportunity. It was like the prime set. It was like all the planets aligned, and I just knew that I had to go out and create my own adventure.
Well, first, let me I'm giving you a high five here through Skype because that's awesome. I mean, honestly, that takes a tremendous amount of courage that I hope that our listeners, well, I know our listeners understand, but I'm telling you that it takes a tremendous amount of courage, and there's a lot of fear in a lot of people to be able to go off and do something like that. And I
Yeah.
think for every I don't know 1,000 people that wish they can do that, there's one like you that actually goes and does it and then says, "Whoa, I made the right choice." So kudos to you. That's really quite awesome. Could you tell us a little bit, because I know that when I was watching, I was to our listeners, I was at TEDx Long Dock in Beacon, New York, and this is when I first listened to Sarah speak. And so, Sarah, you were up on the stage and you were talking about tango. And now I like to dance. Okay, I'll admit it. I love to dance.
Great.
Um, but I had no clue what tango was. I had an idea. I was like, oh, is it like salsa? And in my household, So You Think You Can Dance is one of the popular ones
Oh,
that,
love.
that we like to watch, right? And so, and we're like, wow, this is incredibly talented people dancing. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, so like So You Think You Can Dance type tango. But you kind of opened my mind a little bit to, I think, what's called Argentinian tango. So for our listeners who are probably not as familiar with tango as you are, could you tell us a little bit about what tango exactly is and the kind of tango that you danced?
Yeah, that's a great question because people have an image in their mind of tango, and it could be that So You Think You Can Dance or a ballroom. Some people talk about Dancing with the Stars
Right, very, very orchestrated, very controlled, kind
yep,
of, right.
choreographed.
Right, exactly.
Yep. And so that's one kind of tango, and it's a performance dance. Um, and so there's this whole other kind of tango, which is really a social dance, and it's a cultural dance from Argentina that initially came about at the end of the 1800s when there was a huge mass influx of immigrants into Buenos Aires from mostly Europe and also from Africa. And all of these immigrants had left Europe with the promise that they were going to go to Buenos Aires, they were going to make a ton of money, and they were going to go home to their families. When they got to Buenos Aires, it was terrible conditions, terrible poverty. They never made enough money to go back, so they were really heartbroken. And the tango was something that was sort of created and invented as an expression of like this need to connect and feel what they're feeling. Um, and so it's actually like a folk dance, and it's a partner dance. It's social where people all over the world are going to these social dances that we call milongas, and we take classes. We learn the elements, and we learn how to have a comfortable embrace and move around the dance floor, and and there is no choreography. There's no steps, and so we're having this little nonverbal conversation, and it's sort of magical because you create something unique every time it's done.
So you were doing this at the TED conference then, right? You had
Yes,
no idea what the dance was going to be, and you had, the eventual thousands of eyeballs, through the camera, and then the hundreds of people in attendance watching you, and you had no clue exactly where your right foot was going to go next.
exactly. Isn't that
Wow,
wacky? It was like,
that's wacky
it
is
was
the
like
fun way to describe it.
talk about facing your fear. I
Right,
mean,
right.
it's one thing to do this in, a social dance where, you know, like it's low stakes. If you mess up, which, inevitably there's going to be a little misstep here and there, nobody cares. Nobody, maybe a couple people are watching on the sidelines, but, you're dancing for your partner. And so here we get up to do a performance, and my partner is a professional tango dancer who dances choreographed stage tango with his partner. And we were getting up because I wanted to show that improvised tango. And so we were getting up and just going to create it really on the fly, and just sort of see what happened. And, on top of it, it's like, well, here's life. We get there, and there's like this tiny stage that's carpeted.
Right.
And it's like, no, no, no. Like, you can't dance on carpet in heels like that, but the show must go on, and you improvise just like what tango is. It's improvisation. So we just sort of like made it happen, and we had a great time, and we made each other smile. And we when we went up there, we really knew that we were dancing for ourselves, because when you try to dance for an audience, you project out of your body, and then you can't create something beautiful because you're not present. You're trying to create something for someone else. And so that ability to just boil it down to like this moment, this connection between us, I'm dancing for you, um, is how we create something really worth watching and that may inspire someone. So that was a blast, but for sure, it's like, well, let's see what let's see what this is going to do.
That's right. Well, you did an amazing job. I know myself, and then the others that were in attendance, we just kind of gave each other that look, like, "Wow, is this really happening?" So that was really cool. So let's turn a little bit and talk a little bit more about the idea of play. You talked a little bit about play. You talked a little about fun and how tango kind of brought that creative aspect that you felt the corporate world kind of made you void of a little bit. And so, when you started talking about with the idea of play as being valuable, I immediately started thinking about the companies that are doing quite well these days. Like Google, companies like Google, that are designing a workspace that's very fun, that's very play. They're doing a great job of making the line of work and life skewed so that employees want to be there, and they're kind of bringing in the theory of motivation that like Daniel Pink and other people are talking about. And basically it's to do really hard creative work, you need to have fun, you need to have play, and to do our best work, we need to be having fun while doing it.
Mm.
And so it's interesting, yeah, hearing you talk about how tango kind of brought that into your life. So there's this interesting point to kind of bring up. I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
Oh, well, sort of have something to say about everything, so you don't have to
Great.
worry about that. Um, I think it's so awesome, this concept that, companies are thinking about play as a way of making people more productive. Because I almost want the word work to become like obsolete,
Hmm.
because I think that, ideally, nothing feels like work. Everything feels like something that you want to do. That you naturally, um, just feel like it's pleasurable. So even like going to work, like I want that to be fun. I want to enjoy that, and that's going to make me want to be there. And you look at tango, for example, the amount of work we put into learning tango, because I'm not going to lie, I mean it's fun, but it's also a very technical dance. And you're dancing like close up, cheek to cheek with people and moving around the room. Like, you have to have certain work, certain elements of your posture and your movement in your body, and it takes a long time to learn how to do that well. So we're working so hard on our tango for what? Nobody's paying us to do this. We're doing it for because it's also fun. So when work feels like fun, then you're in the sweet spot. And I think, you look, you even look at the concept of working out. Like as adults, we exercise. As kids, we played.
Hmm.
Kids get exercise from playing. And so like they get these crazy workouts because they're just having fun. And then we become adults and then we're on treadmills and stuff. And we're like, oh, I have to work out. And then life becomes like going to work and working out. And like, what if we're doing exercise that just feels like fun? Then it's naturally motivating. So the way I think the key to life is to make everything pleasurable somehow. Make it somehow be an enjoyable experience, and then you're fully living. You're never doing something because you feel like you have to. That's
So
kind of my motto now. I just want to enjoy my life every day.
that's a beautiful motto, and I think that's one that everyone really wants. And so I'm thinking about our listeners right now, myself included. Start off the day with I'm drinking a cup of coffee, and I'm thinking, geez, I'm listening to this podcast. I want to have fun at work. I want to be able to laugh a little bit more. So, is there any direct advice possibly you can give to our listeners that are sitting there that are they have the mortgage, they have the kids, they need the paycheck, so they can't just quit the job. However, they're thinking, well, how can I add a little bit of more play into my life? And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, so this is what the way I see it is that I really hope that as people sort of awaken to their own desire to enjoy life, that not everybody has to quit their jobs like I did. That would be a significant drain on the economy if everybody starts quitting their jobs and becoming a gypsy of whatever sort, you know, strikes their passion. So like we have to keep people like in their jobs and employed. And I think that there's a way to stay in those more structured environments, but still enjoy and find ways to enjoy life. And I think that that has to be about bringing more of yourself into what you're doing, to be more truly and fully yourself. So rather than like suppressing certain qualities like I did, and being like, okay, follow the rules and do what's asked of me, and you know stay in the box and don't push the status quo. I think that um people being themselves, like bringing their own kind of quirks or ideas or little eccentric habits or something, like bring it to work, be who you are. If you want to have fun, find ways of having fun, play a little prank on people, or you know I don't know, I mean, I used to wear slippers at work. That was like my one stupid thing that was that people were sort of like, wow, you're you're being, because they were like these funny little bunny slippers and stuff. But like, if you just be yourself and find ways to create humor in like little ways, it's not it doesn't have to be about like, you know, change your whole life and quit everything and leave. It's like find ways to create, the kind of lively environment um in just little ways all the time. So uh
Yeah.
I think laughter is really important. I think we have to laugh at least once a day, ideally like a lot more than that. So one of the things that I do is I have in my bookmarks on my internet browser, I have a folder for funny stuff, laughter. And it's just like little videos or something that make me laugh. And every so often I'll go, okay, I need a laugh, and I'll just go and watch something, and I'll just laugh out loud, and that kind of changes my energy and my mood, and then I kind of can get back into whatever I'm doing.
Well, it's funny because when you say that, I think there's a reason why you put up a funny cat video. and it gets 5 million hits within within a couple weeks or whatever. And I think that's actually a really good idea for a lot of people to do. Just put a simple, for your for your browser, put the bookmarks for little funny YouTube videos, or if your work doesn't allow YouTube, funny pictures or whatever it is, or
Yeah.
and maybe even a little bit of your like some people put their family photos up or whatever, but whatever it is that kind of gets you to smile, right? Gets you
Yeah.
to stay in that happy place and
Yeah.
doesn't make work feel necessarily like it's work.
Yeah, we shouldn't take it all so seriously, you know? I mean, we're here. Like let's lighten up a little bit. It doesn't all have to be so heavy and consequential. It's, life brings things and takes it away. So, it's all about, looking at it in a way that makes it feel good on a moment to moment basis. So, just being conscious of that and just wanting to have a good time with it, like it can just make everything sort of feel, I don't know, more just lighter.
Right, right. And I know I'll speak on my half. I'm a little bit obsessed with looking into people's biographies, people that are really successful, and I like to see, what school do they go to, what habits do they have, what did they do before they started such and such, and so, the thing that I find is that so many of those people, like Richard Branson's and just many people like that, they always, Steve Jobs, they always say that they were having fun. They always say that they were enjoying what they did. And yeah, I mean, now these people obviously did quite well for themselves,
Mhm.
money and fame and everything. But the more I find the people that are being truly successful, like not just one hit wonders, but people that constantly are innovative, constantly are smiling in their photos, but real smiles, not fake smiles. Those are the ones that say that I'm having fun. I'm doing fun employment. I'm doing something that
Yeah.
makes me feel alive.
Yeah.
So,
It's
uh,
all about.
could you talk a little bit about, our listeners are sitting there, and I like to, like I said, like I'm sitting there drinking a cup of coffee, waiting, what I want to do with my day. Can you talk a little bit about, do you have a morning ritual? I'm a little bit obsessed with morning rituals, and I like to hear what people do. And so, can you talk a little bit about your morning ritual, if you have any? If you don't, no worries.
I do.
But wait, how do you stay productive? Stuff like that.
I do, and I love that you're obsessed with it because so am I. And I have to stop myself because I can get carried away and end up spending like 3 hours on like
Mm-hmm.
getting my day started.
Right, right.
But but I do. So one of my rules for myself is no rushing in the morning. So that's a total paradigm shift from my days in Boston, where it would be like as soon as the alarm went off, I would be like racing around because, of course, I gave myself as little time as possible to get ready um, and so no rushing in the morning. Mornings should be peaceful. I want it to be quiet and still. And I sort of like to putter. I kind of like to like put dishes away or clothes away or clean. It just feels sort of like a way to start the day in sort of an organizing kind of mindset. And then and I do these exercises called the five Tibetans, which are they've been called the fountain of youth. So apparently it's not actually a fountain, it's five exercises that you do that make you younger as you get older. And this has been going on for like thousands of years in the mountains of Tibet by these monks who wake up every day and they do, and it's a um, five exercises that you repeat up to 21 times each with two breaths in between. So there's this very rhythmic, numerical counting breath work along with it, and it keeps your spine flexible and your core strong. And those are things, like they say, yogis don't measure age in years; they measure it in the flexibility of your spine. So, so if I wake up in the morning and I'm doing twisting and I'm doing, you know, um, arching and rounding and things like keeping my spine flexible, then that then movement is more fluid, and that's a youthful thing. So So the five Tibetans is something that I do, and then I do a couple of other pranic like breathing exercises, and and by then, I sort of start my day. I make my vegetable juice, I walk the dog, and then I'm off and running. But I also feel that there's something really sacred about starting the day with some discipline. I don't always get excited to do my exercises because they're sort of hard, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I just don't want to do it. But if I do it, then it sets the tone also for the day that I'm taking care of myself and doing something with discipline. Then my choices all day long tend to fall into that vibration of like the food choices that I make are healthier. I've just sort of set my day up for like I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to, make choices that are good for me. And Rather than start the day, frantically racing around, trying to get to my coffee and, arriving at work, a little bit late and a little bit breathless and then feeling frustrated with myself or whomever got in my way on the way to work. It's like a toxic way to start the day. And of course, the rest of the day is going to be about like reaching for comfort foods and, whatever, stimulants and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I feel like mornings are such a sacred time to set up the day in the right way.
That's a really good point. I like how you talk about that the way that you start your morning off replicates the choices that you're going to be making later on in the day. And I know that, myself included, that I've seen that happen many times as well.
Mm.
If I start the day off and I do exercise, or I do some sort of meditation, or I put the dishes away, or do something that doesn't necessarily make me feel like I'm having necessarily a lot of fun, but
Mm.
that I'm doing something that I know is good for me, good for my family, good for just good in general.
Yeah.
And then later on in the day, the choices I make are a lot better. So
Hmm.
I wonder if there's a little bit of, I'm sure there's some sort of psychology behind that. So that's a really good point. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other ways that you stay productive throughout your day? I know for a lot of people, there's what's called that the afternoon lull, where you reach for that another shot of espresso at 2:30. Maybe you didn't make a good choice at lunch for food, and you're having a sugar low or whatever, and you're crashing. Or you're just really stressed out. It's 5 o'clock. You want to get home to the family, but you're in the middle of some sort of work deal, and it's not working the way you want. Um, are there any other mental tricks, or from your travels, have there been other things that you've learned that kind of help you snap back and stay in the positive?
Totally. I think that, that a lot of what we're doing is like energy management. We're like there's 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 always a need for more energy, and it always seems to be in short supply. So finding ways to boost our energy is like one of the best skills that we can learn. And so, yeah, like I just know how much better I feel when I have a lot of energy versus when I'm dragging. And so I do a lot of things to cultivate keeping my energy going. Um, One of those things is movement. So when I get into a rut at a certain point in the day, I just tell myself, you need to get up and move around. And ideally, it's outside where I can get natural light and fresh air. Um, and so to me, like taking a walk is like one of the simplest, easiest, most accessible ways to just refresh myself because it's moving through space. It's getting me out in the fresh air. It's getting me hopefully in some sunshine or the elements. And it also gets me breathing because a lot of times I think what ends up making us tired is that we're not breathing deeply enough. Most people have a habit of breathing in a very shallow way. Um, and so if we just take deeper, I think half the reason exercise is so beneficial is because it makes us breathe a lot. And breathing is really what gives us energy more than anything. So just, getting some deep breath in there and sort of refreshing the oxygen and the circulation in our bodies is a great way to perk up. I come back to my desk and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for this again. I really try not to reach for, uh, sugar or stimulants or other things because it's a slippery slope. It becomes something where like, well, I did that yesterday and that worked out, so I'm going to do it again today. And then, well, now, and then it's a few days and now I need a little bit more to get the same kind of fix. And it's like, before you know it, you've formed a habit that is now you have to undo it because essentially it's a false form of energy.
Right.
So getting like natural energy from sunlight, nature, sitting, being just in a park, just being around greenery and squirrels and um, just nature's got a lot of energy going on. So
Squirrels definitely are not in short supply of energy. So
go get inspired by a squirrel, you know?
I love that. It's silly, but it's so true. It's so true. So lovely. So thank you.
Yeah.
So all right, Sarah. So thank you so very much for joining us on the podcast this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to give you any last chance to say if there's anything that you want to close with. But could you share with our listeners here where they can find you if they were to go and look you up online?
Yeah, my website is sarahjacob29.com. So Sarah with an H, Jacob 29 is my lucky number, .com. And I update that with whatever I've got going on in the heat of the moment. So you can sign up for my mailing list there and just find out more.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Sarah. Thank you so very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day,
Thanks, Mark.
and thank you for the squirrel comment. That's gonna make my day. I'm serious.
Get inspired by a squirrel.
All right, lovely. Take care, Sarah. Thank you.
You too. Thanks.
All right, well, that about does it for episode 1 of The Traveling Cup. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Sarah Jacob. I always admire when people are able to take the leap, as Seth Godin would say, and try your dream. So for me, I'm about to go start my day. Feel free to hop on over at thetravelingcup.com. Join our Facebook page. Please post some pictures of you dancing tango. I would absolutely love that. Well then, until next week, start dancing.